Hey friends, welcome to another Top 10 List episode. Finally, right? Probably not a mystery, right? Today we're going to be looking at PlayStation 1 RPGs. One of the absolute golden ages of JRPGs was on the first PlayStation. Now the one caveat on the list today is I will not be including Final Fantasy titles. I'll be making a video a little bit later for those. If I included them in this list, then that would just be like half this list. It would just be all Final Fantasy titles, and that sounds very, very exciting. Doesn't sound fun. It's a little boring, so you know we're gonna keep things interesting here. Also, you might see some cat ears right over here. Just a warning. He decided to show up today for the shooting, so if you see little cat ears in this corner pop up throughout the video, we got a fan wants to watch the process. So anyway, let's get into the top 10. I'm gonna honor, of course, a couple at the end, right? The ones that didn't make the video. But coming in today at number 10 is a game called Sayuki Journey West. This game by Koei came out in 2001 and is a strategy RPG, which I love. First one I ever played was Shining Force back on the Genesis, and I've been a big fan of this subgenre ever since. Sayuki was a bit of a lesser known title, the story that was based on the classic Chinese story Journey to the West. You play as Sanzo the priest on a spiritual journey traveling from China to India. You can choose male or female protagonist to control in the beginning, which actually is I've noticed a lot from the games today. It's like an accidental theme today, is that a lot of these games have these dual protagonist options, which is great. Along the way, you'll meet Goku, not like that Goku, although that Goku was based on the same novel that Sayuki is, that's a fun thing to know. But yeah, you'll meet Goku and other teammates that have the ability to transform into powerful mythological beasts during battle, while Sanzo summons powerful guardians to help. Lots of fun. This was a great time for strategy RPGs. Now, coming in at number 9, I have here the Arc the Lad Collection. This thing is like 4 games, but I'm really focusing on the first one. I honestly haven't played the third one or the arena thing, but Working Designs helped to release this back in 2002, which was rare. It was not common back then for games to be released as collections, or even with as much swag as this came with. Working Designs was heroic back then in that they were translating and releasing titles we really didn't have access to back then. I love Arc the Lad 1 for its simplicity. Yeah, I've always felt strongly that you don't need games to be 100 hours to have a strong impact. And this game is short and sweet. Like, you can have an amazing experience in a short amount of time and feel very happy and fulfilled with that. And this game gives you that, with its short turn-based battles, filled with a fun cast of characters, all with unique abilities. And the map was easy to navigate and travel through, and towns required very minimal exploration. They were like one room. I played the second one, and it was great too. A direct sequel. It was definitely more expansive and more traditional than the first, but I've replayed the first one more than the second, so Arc the Lad 1 gets to be in at number 9 today. Now at number 8, I'm putting in a game originally shown to me by my friend back in the day. We've shown each other games over the years, and he introduced me to this game, and it's Star Ocean 2, The Second Story. This game is by Tri-Ace and Enix, and again, started you off with a choice between a dual protagonist, Claude and Rena. Watching the game unfold from each of their perspectives was cool, and each path offered exclusives. Like, picking Rena gives you access to arguably the better exclusive recruitable character, but picking Claude lets you witness these sweet dance moves early on. You got your options, yeah. You know, Star Ocean games have this like science fiction fantasy blend. I tend to prefer fantasy settings in the games I play, so I get to have that here while getting me a little out of my comfort zone by sprinkling in some sci-fi and interplanetary travel. I like this graphical style a lot too. The pre-rendered backgrounds back then were a staple. Battles were fun. The music was so good. Really enhanced the feelings and the scenes of this game. Like, when I went back to recapture the footage for this video, I remember getting hit by just the biggest wave of nostalgia while watching Claude and Rena talk at night, looking at the water, hearing that track play. I was just instantly taken back to 20 years ago. Fans of this series tend to think of this entry as the best one, and I definitely agree with them. There are 5 games total. There's a 6th one due out later this year, which looks promising. Could compete with number 2 as the best, who knows? It looks like it's maybe drawing some inspiration from 2 at least, some well-deserved inspiration from our number 8 game today. Alright, number 7 is a game that doesn't get hate, it gets underrepresented sometimes maybe, and I want to give it some love, alright? It's another dual protagonist RPG, and it's Threads of Fate. Threads of Fate. I don't know where the cover went, but I got the disc and I got the box. So Threads of Fate. It's number 7. I remember playing a demo of it at Fry's, which was this electronics store around where I grew up, and I remember seeing it there. This game by Square, which I thought they could do no wrong back then. I thought like everything they touched turned to gold. I was definitely a fanboy. I wanted to play everything that they released, so I tried that demo and loved it. Bought it as soon as I could. I remember that day playing as Rue, turning into a tadpole and thinking it was super cool to battle that way. I played through the entire game as him, and then I tried the other protagonist, Mint, with her customizable magic-wielding abilities. She was cool, also fun, but I was really here for Rue's monster transforming. The game gives you New Game Plus, so the replay value was super high for me. The story was really simple and beautiful as well. Another short, sweet adventure. With New Game Plus, you could continue leveling your stats as high as you want. They would just roll over and roll over. The game was designed well though, so that like even with that, there were still platforming challenges regardless of how strong you were. Like that damn fancy Mel sequence, it took me forever to remember how to get through when I was capturing the footage for this. I died so much. The music was really charming as well. I learned that the composer actually went on from this project to work on the Final Fantasy X soundtrack, so we can thank this game for giving him the experience to pave the way for that amazing soundtrack as well. Now, number 6 is a polarizing entry in its series, but as I established what a fanboy of Square I was, I didn't care. I played it and loved it, and that's Legend of Mana. Legend of Mana. It is a departure from the series and JRPG traditions in general, so it's understandable that it would have some controversy surrounding it. However, I had such a great experience with this game that I have a ton of love for it. See, when I first got this game, I used to bring it to my friend's house, and we'd stay up late and order pizza and drink coffee and just play the hell out of this game. I look back on that as such a fond memory. So I get it though, it was different, right? Like the entire premise is centered around rebuilding the world and placing locations down in a grid-like system, and then depending on how close locations were to your house or what they were placed next to would have a huge effect on things like available quests or monster levels. There was a ton of quests to complete in this world, and it would easily take multiple playthroughs to discover them all. But why wouldn't you? Do you know what happens every time you finished a quest in this game? You tell your adoring cactus plant pet friend about it, and he writes in his special leaf journal. And I'm no monster. I certainly wouldn't want to deprive him of living vicariously through me to the fullest. Your hero was super customizable too, starting with a male or female protagonist choice and allowing you to choose from a big list of fighting styles. Now, I'm not always a fan of full customization. Like, I don't always love when everyone can do everything, but it fit well in this game. This game was great. The world just had this certain feeling to it, you know, and it's been re-released recently for modern consoles, so now it's easy to play in HD, widescreen, the trophies, if you're into that. This game had this feeling, this heart in it, entrenched in so much mana and psych and density lore. this heart that's just hard to describe. Good music, same composers from the Kingdom Hearts games, and just those great 2000 era PS1 graphics too, which Square would always find ways to impress us with, like those big guardian creatures. They look cool. Wow, looking at this list, 2000 really killed it. It's an unbelievable year for RPGs. And another great RPG from the year 2000 is coming in at number 5. And it's a title by Sony, and that's The Legend of Dragoon. I remember standing in line to buy this game. I was in Toys R Us with my very first tax refund, and I blew it all on video games. There was a guy in line behind me saying, "Oh man, one day you're getting hit with so many bills, it's not even funny." I remember my response was something like, "Yeah, I know, that's why I gotta stock up now." And he was right, for sure, but hey, at least I'm well stocked. So, Legend of Dragoon is a really fun turn-based RPG. It expanded the traditional system to make the game a little bit more interactive during battle, which required timing to pull off special moves. I thought it was interesting too that the game didn't use any RNG to determine damage. Like, I kind of liked that. They took some stress away from the unknown and the wondering. They also give you a heads up when a random battle is about to occur by changing the color of the tracking cursor. It's very thoughtful of them. Really enjoyed the soundtrack from this game too. It was the perfect complement to the gorgeous environments that they crafted. Speaking of which, my first video I ever made, I talked about how much I paid attention to how well water is animated in games. In this game, it just looks so good. First time you really see it is in this prairie you pass through in the beginning, and like my jaw hit the floor the first time I saw it. I was so impressed. I forced at least one of my friends to play through the first couple of hours just to witness in awe at this one screen. Good story too. They built up some great mythology with their world building. It's kind of a waste that they never did anything else with it. People have been begging for a remake of this forever. But until then, this is a game I will gladly replay from time to time. Alright, I gotta say something real quick about this top 4, especially 3 and 4 specifically. I lost sleep trying to figure out this I don't know, like I don't know why I got so hung up, because I love all these games, but 3 and 4 basically tied. It was hard to settle on ranking one over the other because I just went back and forth so many times. Ultimately, I decided to give the edge to the game that I've replayed more throughout the years. So that being said, at number 4 is a sequel to a game that I cherish and love, as channel watchers know, and that game is Chrono Cross. Squaresoft released this game in 2000, and I was so excited for a sequel to Chrono Trigger. This game is not a direct canon sequel, more of a spiritual sequel, or at least a sequel to Radical Dreamers, which we didn't get here. Although there are definitely connections in this game to Chrono Trigger, which is all I'll say. Some clear references and influences if you know where to look. It made me very happy. Even without that though, it's still a very cool game. I like games with large casts of recruitable characters. I'm into it. I like to have a lot of different sets of people I can go through a game with every time. And this one had like 45. I remember playing through with New Game Plus several times so that I could build a single file with all of them in it. I replayed it quite a lot. Not recently, but capturing footage was so nostalgic and magical that I may play it again soon. Like in Chrono Trigger, the battles weren't random, same in here, not random, but they had a pretty unique take on turn-based battles. Super fun cast, interactive dungeon exploration, absolutely gorgeous worlds. I loved the setting. Chrono Trigger may have had time travel, but Chrono Cross had dimensional travel. And traveling to an alternate universe allowed for some interesting world-building contrasts, and they played into the what-if game a lot, like meeting a fisherman who wonders how his life would have been different had he gone a different path, and then meeting him in an alternate universe where he went on that different path. And he gave up fishing and his family to worship a straw doll deity named Mojo. I can also confidently go on record as saying that this game has one of the best soundtracks of all time, one of Yasunori Mitsuda's finest compositions. I loved it so much. I remember having this soundtrack on 3 CDs and driving around, and as a teenager, like listening to angsty rock music back then, and then just popping the Chrono Cross soundtrack and just loving life, driving around listening to these tracks. Beautiful, beautiful music. Really helps set the mood of this game every step of the way. Rumors are swirling too. It sounds like this game is very likely being remastered or re-released at some point. The rumors and leaks are all just that for now, but we're all expecting official news on this at some point soon. And depending on how fast it takes me to edit this, that news may have already dropped, who knows. Again, at number 3 is a game I had a really hard time ranking over Chrono Cross because I love it. I just talked about it, so much love, right? But I love this game. I love it too. It's very, very dear to my heart, and I've replayed it a lot, recently in fact, and that game is Suikoden 2. The Suikoden series by Konami is one of my favorite franchises. It is a beloved series of mine. And this one was released in 1999, but was overshadowed by the release of Final Fantasy VIII at the time. This was an incredible sequel to the first game, a canon sequel taking place 3 years after those events. Suikoden games are loosely based on the classic Chinese novel Water Margin, which is why you have 108 characters available to recruit. Like, if you thought Chrono Cross had a lot of recruitable characters, this game has over twice as many as that. And you get to have a party of 6 too, so you have endless possibilities on how to build a squad for any occasion. These games also will always give you some sort of headquarter, castle, town to build up from nothing. And the one they featured in this game is easily one of my favorites. One of this game's strongest features, though, was the story. The trio from, like, the cover here, that trio, their relationship was amazing. It was really well done, well written. I enjoyed it. They even planted seeds in this game for future storylines that they utilized much later, which was super impressive. Like, there's literally a major spoiler from the 5th game buried in someone's investigation report in here, which I thought was unbelievable. It blew my mind when I realized they did that. The Suikoden franchise, sadly, is never going to be revived by Konami, but there was a huge successful 2020 Kickstarter for a game called Ayuden, created by members from the original Suikoden team, which is currently in development and looks like everything you could possibly want from a modern-day Suikoden style game. Number 2 on this list is a game that is a little lesser known, a little bit of a dark horse, but it's why we like these lists, they are all unique in this way. This game is by Atlas. It's a strategy RPG that I absolutely love and adore this game, and that is Brigandine, The Legend of Forsena. I cracked the box. I don't know if you can see that. It was very sad when I did. I didn't take good care of the boxes when I was younger, but the disc is in great shape. The disc is in great shape, so what a relief, right? I love this game so much. It came out in 1998. My guru of a friend let me borrow it to play and had no idea how obsessed I would become shortly after. For me, it is one of the best strategy RPGs of all time, easily. It is exactly what I want and look for in this type of game. I've always explained this game as being similar to like the board game Risk almost, taking place in a world on a big, warring, mythological continent. You get to choose which of the 5 countries surrounding the evil empire you want to start as, and you go from there, capturing territories and expanding your borders using powerful rune knights that are almost like equipped with mythological beasts. Everything could level up and evolve, from little wyverns and dragons into big behemoths and phoenixes. These battles would take place on big hex-based grids and could potentially contain like 30 creatures on the screen at once. Musically speaking, every country had its own battle theme that would play during their turn, and they were all great. I was really into some of them. The character art I loved. I thought it brought a lot of these sprites to life really well. And the story was fine. It's fine, I guess. You don't play this game for the story. You're playing for the super fun, addicting gameplay and creature building as you slowly watch the continent shift to your color. As you took out other countries, you'd gain some more allies, send knights on quests, find more items and monsters and more knights. Just so much fun. A game with a very, very high replay value and has been reimagined recently on modern day consoles as Brigandine, The Legend of Runetercia. It's great. It's great. It's much easier to find and play than the original. But of course, I'll always have the most nostalgic love for The Legend of Frisena, one of the best games ever on the PlayStation 1. And now we're on to number 1, my favorite game on today's list. Like, how to even introduce it. I remember walking home. This is how I was introduced to the game. I was walking home from school one day with my friend, really great friend Ken. We went to Ken's place and we talked RPGs, we were talking about games. He showed me this game. I'd never heard of it. He told me to borrow it, take it home, play it, trust me. So I did. I took it home and I couldn't put it down. I got really sucked in, and I owe this game a great debt of gratitude for spawning one of my absolute favorite series ever, and that is the very first Suikoden. Suikoden 1 I'm putting in as my number 1 game on this list. This game came out in 1996, although, like I said, I missed out initially. I didn't try it until a few years later. It's another short and sweet game. It easily can be finished in the 15 to 20 hour mark, but there's a lot of fun packed in there. It is iconic. All of the Suikoden staples, they were done here first. The large-scale battles, they were handled like a wartime mini-game. Also, the first time you get the 108 Stars of Destiny. They all help you build up in an abandoned castle you find and make your home in. Another thing I really liked in here was that unlike in some of the sequels, there was very little in here that was truly missable. You could get by doing the bare minimum without a guide and still be able to go and find all the recruitable characters up until the very end, basically, if you knew where to look. Technically speaking, this game probably wasn't as good or as polished as number 2, but there was just something about this first one, this rawness, this heart that's in it that just cannot be matched by the rest. I'm sorry, just for me, it just can't be. It came out very early in the PlayStation cycle, but the 2D graphics looked very good. The battles loaded fast too. Loading times weren't a struggle at all in this game. It's fun too, it's silly. Had silly moments. I like silly games having silly moments. You know what happened to me too? First and last time I've ever done this. But like, I finished the game for the first time, controller in hand, I'm watching the credits roll, and as soon as they finish, the end, I reached over and hit the reset button. I didn't even get up to stretch or anything. I just reached over, boop, started a new game again. And there's nothing like New Game Plus here that would be different. I was like so down to just play the entire game again from scratch immediately. That's how much I loved that game and the experience I had with it. And for that reason, it is number 1 on today's list. Well, that's the list today. A couple of honorable mentions that I almost included in this list at number 9 or 10 instead of the games that were there. A couple of games and series that I absolutely love, like the Breath of Fire series. I got 3 and 4 here. I mentioned in an earlier video that the Breath of Fire series peaked later, and this is where it happened in the PlayStation era. They just hit it perfectly here. There's just so many great games. That's how good this era was, that these games didn't even make it into the top 10 list. The Lunar series too. I've got these big boxes here. These ones here. The Lunar series by Working Designs, or brought over by Working Designs. Another series I really love. A lot of us didn't get to play these, on the Saturn, me included. I played them here on the PlayStation for the first time, and they were good. Very anime-esque RPGs. I don't actually watch a lot of anime. I like it. I don't actually watch a lot of it, but I love playing JRPGs that are like playing through one. Lunar did this really well. Good cutscenes, a lot of fun. These videos are the best. They're so fun to make. How'd you like it? How did you like it, huh? Did you enjoy it? He enjoyed it. He's telling me with his cat brain. Anyways, have a great day gaming. See you next time.